It's on the test. We're going to cover advertising and how it applies to fair housing, what we can say and cannot say. We're going to talk about environmental concerns, the regulations on lead-based paint, radon. These are bad things, and we need to be aware of them. Property conditions is in Alabama. Do we have to disclose certain things? And then material facts. This is something they've really gotten down on over the last few years, on suppressing material facts. They don't like that. In advertising, we're going to deal with antitrust. The do not call list. This can get you in trouble. $11,000 fine. So we're going to learn the rules on who we can call and when. Canned spam. We're going to open us a can of spam and look inside there and see what we don't want to eat. And then social media. There are rules that apply to all advertising, not just social media or print ad. When they wrote these rules, Facebook didn't exist. The internet didn't even exist. But the same rules still apply today. We're going to look at the fair housing. We're going to learn the protected classes, redlining. I've actually got a map of Birmingham where it's got the red lines on it, where they don't want to deal. Blockbusting, steering, all the advertising rules. Got a lot to cover. First thing we're going to deal with is lead-based paint, because that's kind of where the first rule back in 1978. We really didn't have many regulations before 78. It was a wild, wild west. But in 1978, they have a law that actually took effect then. They quit using lead-based paint prior to that, but the law took effect in 1978, saying you cannot use lead-based paint in a residential home anymore. We're going to have a form that we looked at, but the reason we do this is because lead-based paint is bad. It's for kids. It's really bad stuff.
Yeah, people been getting that like way after that though. After that law came out, they were getting lead poisoning.
Yeah, because it was still in the houses. That's why we have to disclose. And there's a pamphlet that explains the lead-based paint to them. And if they've got small kids, they need to be aware of lead-based paint. And we're going to find out about the rules on remediating it. Everybody, I think, in the whole country uses the same form. This is a lead-based paint form. It says, does the seller know about any lead-based paint in this house? I've done probably 1,000 of these, and I've never had a single seller say, oh yeah, we got lead-based paint. They always say, no, I don't know nothing. Then that's what they're going to check. If they've had tests done, and they've got those tests, and they've got on the second one, they've got to give them the reports. You have a place that you'll have to sign right here. I should initial saying I discussed this with the seller, and here's what they said. They gave me this information. The purchaser or the tenant has to initial it, saying they got this form, they got the booklet that goes along with it, and you discuss lead-based paint with them. Then down at the bottom, everybody signs it. You initial it, and then how long are you going to keep this form?
3 years.
3 years. And if you don't use it, what's the fine?
$250.
Oh no, you're going to get off cheap here. It's $11,000 fine. And if they come into your office, the EPA comes in to audit you, they're going to look at every file they don't go back just 3 years with the EPA. They can go back to you started business. And I guess they could fine you $11,000 on every deal that you didn't do this on. So this is serious for your customer clients, and it's serious for you. That's all the stuff you need to know right over here. One thing I missed was the buyer or the tenant's got 10 days. If this house was built prior to 1978, they've got 10 days to run their own test on it and discover whether there is lead-based paint. Now, if you're representing a buyer and they've got small children, and this house is built in, say, 1950, what would be a good thing to tell them to do,
Go
or
ahead.
advise them to do?
Yeah, it's best.
Go ahead and run it. The lead-based.
Do a lead-based paint test, and if the things eat up with lead-based paint and they got all these small children, what should you say? You're advising them now, they're your clients. What should you say?
Either redo the paint and have a money, you know, for the walls to be repainted for them and allocate that into the sale, or, you know, just work out something in between them.
Right, because you have a duty to your clients, and you know they got small children,
Yeah, they don't need to have,
and their small children can really be damaged by this.
I think I was.
So, do you think it's a material fact?
Yes.
Is that what?
Yeah,
It is.
so you need to talk about it.
It's all right.
This is the booklet that goes along with it. You can buy these booklets down at the MLS. They're 15 cents a piece. That's cheap insurance to hand them this booklet and say, you might want to read this. Here's why you might want to read it. And that's what it looks like. Lead-based paint, it's got kind of a look to it when it's old and they haven't been taking care of it. It just peels off in sheets. I've seen it hanging from the ceiling in just sheets. Childhood lead poisoning. #1 environmental health risk facing children. Lead is a powerful neurotoxin that interferes with the development and function of almost all body organs. Seriously in the head, down at the bottom, even at low levels. Lead can reduce IQ, reading, learning disabilities, attention deficit disorder, behavioral problems. You see, the list just goes on and on. They've done autopsies of career criminals, and they've got high levels of lead in their brain. Antisocial behavior. So I spent a little more time on lead than we probably would have, but I want you to understand how serious lead-based paint is.
So were there no regulations on the basis, what goes into paint back in those days?
Back in those days, no. Question is, was there any regulations back then? They finally realized, hey, there's something going on here. And then they figured out what it was, and then they stopped them from using lead-based paint. But it took them a while, and they still, you read things every now and then about toys that they're getting from China. Y'all shaking your heads, yeah, y'all seen it. Why do you think they're telling us that? Because the kids are the ones going to be eating the colorful toys with the lead-based paint. Once it's in you, it doesn't come out. It's not like you can breathe it on out. Serious stuff. Lead-based paint video. All of these, when you're on the PowerPoint and you're in these things, put it on the slideshow mode, and it brings the big screen up, and you can click on any of the blue links and it'll take you to those videos. Another one, this is about the rules on the EPA, where they're telling you, here, basically what we just told you. This is on lead-based paint removal. What this video is about is telling you that you need to have a lead-based paint certified contractor remove the lead-based paint if you're moving over 6 square feet. 6 square feet's not real big. It's like 2 feet by 3 feet. If they're having to remove that much in a remodeling job, that contractor's got to be lead-based paint certified. This is new. See the date on it, 2018, October. Got this off of the internet, and everything on the internet is true.
Yeah, right.
This is all about lead-based paint. They're having I think it was Sherwin-Williams is going to have to pay something like $50 million to clean up lead-based paint. We're talking, that's 78, that's 80, 92, that's 30 years ago. They haven't even used it in 30 years. But they're finding them, I think it's like $50 million to do
So
remediation.
were they the only paint company back
That's
then?
nothing.
No, well,
No,
that
they
was just
weren't
one of them, Sherman's one that I remember, probably Benjamin
Benjamin
Moore,
Moore.
and, you know,
I see
all the big
all of
ones.
So the paint prices going up.
Because they're going after those deep pockets.
Right.
That's crazy.
This
Yeah,
is
well.
a new one that's just popped up. Y'all seen the playgrounds where they
yeah.
grind up tires?
Mm-hmm.
Now they're doing research on the tire chips. It's got the tire dust. and
Really?
The kids are getting that and putting it in their mouth, and that's causing health issues. It just keeps going and going. So be aware that, you know, you're looking at a house and they've got this beautiful backyard and there's the kids' playground and they've got rubber chips in there. You might want to write in the contract, now that you know this, seller to what?
Remove.
Remove those rubber chips. Let them do it. There's a little pamphlet on lead-based paint. It's bad in schools, hospitals, apartments, anywhere children may be present. Just a little more on it. There's a thing about the 6 square feet. Got to have a certified contractor do that. And they take us a test question about the 6 square feet. Where the lead dangers come from, get the right contractor, and just be aware of lead-based paint. Renovate Right, this is more on that. Alright. Is the seller required to test for lead-based paint?
No.
No. What are some of the dangers?
Buy at your own risk.
Brain damage, really. Because once it's in there, it short circuits the brain. Who's most at risk? Children.
It tastes good.
Yeah, it tastes good.
Tastes like sugar chips.
Are you speaking from experience? Put them in your cereal, you know. Better than a Lucky Charm marshmallow. Put them in your cereal.
Disclosure required even if unknown for what? Yeah, 'cause you don't know if it's there, but these other things, mold, asbestos, and radon, you're not required to dig that up, but lead-based paint, you're gonna know when the house was built.
Right.
So if it's 1978 or prior, January 1st, 78, then you know that there's probably lead-based paint there, and you know that you've got to use that form and the booklet that goes along with it. So even if you don't know, they may not have used lead-based paint in this house, but you know it was built prior to that.
See.
Anybody else like C?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I like C too. Because of the age of the house, there's a good likelihood of the presence of lead-based paint. Just make that a habit. When you do a listing contract, you're going down through there and it'll have a block in there about the age of the house. Right out to the side of that when the house is built. So it's there in your head as you're doing all, because you're doing a lot of paperwork and you don't want to miss that form. Alright, that got lead-based paint. Next bad boy on our list is radon. Look at that bold print there. I didn't know this. The second leading cause of lung cancer. 21,000 people a year die from radon. That's an amazing number to me. That's a lot of people every day. Radon is invisible. You can't smell it. It's in this room right now.
So you said well water may have high levels, is that
Yes.
because of the sulfur?
Well, it's down there, well, the radon is where uranium's decaying down under the ground. and the well water's down under the ground. So you could have radon in your well water. If you think you do, get it tested. And if you can't, get city water then. 1 in 15 homes estimated to have high elevated levels. You can test for radon. There's a system called passive. Like this building is built on a slab. The thing about a slab is kind of like it's sealed everything, so the radon can't get up in here. But concrete does two things. It gets hard and it cracks. And where there's a crack, that radon can come up through the crack, get into the building. Buildings now are built to be airtight. They're way more efficient than they used to be. So if your property's airtight and you got a crack in the concrete, chances are what you're going to have in here? Radon. So if you suspect radon and it's telling me 21,000 people are dying because of it, that might be something that's important. Got a video on it? In case y'all, I know y'all, when y'all get home tonight, y'all gonna go back and look at all these videos.
Oh, yeah.
I know y'all will. Good. Next bad boy is mold. Oh, it wasn't that long ago. Somebody said mold, and you said, well, just get some bleach.
Yeah.
Wipe it off.
Yeah.
There's a product on the market called X14. I think it's just bleach. You just spray it on there to kill the mold. Man, you really didn't kill the mold. The mold's deep. Yeah, it's back in there. This is what it looks like on the surface. But it's in the sheetrock. Mold has to have two things. It's got to have air to breathe, and it's got to have something to eat. So it's going to eat something organic. The sheetrock, that is an organic cover on there. It's paper. So it likes it. It tastes good. So it'll grow there. You said moisture. That's the key to mold. If you have mold, first thing you got to do is, where's the water coming from? I got to stop the water. It's hard to say where this is coming from. It could be, there's a wall behind here that water is up against this wall and there's a crack in it and it's seeping in. Or it could be there's a roof leak and it's dripping down here. What they'll probably have to do in this case is they'll pull off this wood and then they'll cut this sheetrock out. Because it's in there, the mold's in there, the spores are in there, and if you just cover it over, they're still there. So you're going to have to cut this out, then treat behind there with some kind of, what's it called, antimicrobe something. I missed that biology class, but there's something, yeah, something you can kill this stuff with. And it's not cheap. You call a professional company in just to do this, and it's going to be hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Because they're going to have to get the special mask and the gloves and the space suits, and they're going to have to bag this stuff up, and they're going to have to haul it to a special dump. So mold is a bad word in this business now.
Right. Wow.
Next one is asbestos. Everybody's heard of asbestos. Used to, it was everywhere. The schools. Back when I was in elementary school, the pipes over the classroom were wrapped in asbestos to insulate them. The wind would blow, and you'd see those dust just blowing around in the room. That's asbestos dust. It gets in your lungs, and it can lay there for 30 years. And then all of a sudden, boom, you got lung cancer. Y'all seen all these ads on TV with the call me and I'll get you a big settlement from your mesothelioma?
Yeah.
That's what it's about. Where people worked around asbestos 20, 30 years ago. And now it's coming up. What you want to do with asbestos is called encapsulate. That's a test word. Encapsulate means you seal it. Not sure what you'd seal it with, but the people that deal with asbestos, they know what to seal it with so the dust won't get out. These are some examples of what asbestos looks like. They used it in insulation, in floor tiles. They had asbestos floor tiles.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's
You would
just,
think it was, insulation.
yeah, it was, well, they thought it was great stuff.
So. Where is it?
B.
Y'all like that
B,
one?
yes.
Y'all like B?
Yes, sir.
Withholding the information prevents the buyer from making an informed decision. That'd be a material fact now.
I was just getting ready, I thought about material fact, but
Material
I didn't
fact.
see that in there.
Keep that in your mind.
Yeah.
It says you know the house has a water problem in the basement. If you know it, then what do you gotta do? Disclose it. That's a material fact.
Says D.
He is a boy.
B, okay.
Well, if the seller tells you,
No, you're good.
yeah, but sometimes the seller may say, don't tell them the basement floods. No, I can't do that.
You do that.
Next one on our list, this will apply to commercial, because you normally won't have these kind of issues in a residential property. Well, let's just say you're dealing with commercial, and you've got this nice little corner lot right downtown. Used to have a gas station there. You remember when the gas station was there? Y'all remember what gas stations have buried in the ground?
Gas tanks.
Gas tanks. What were they made out of? Metal. What happens to metal under the ground? It rusts. And then the gasoline oozes out. What's that doing to the land? The dirt. It's polluting, it's contaminating that land. Now, this is what you do. So phase one, that's just where you do your due diligence and find out what was here before. It's just a vacant lot now, it's just gravel. You need to look at the records. What kind of business was here before? Well, you find out it was a gas station. Just right off, you need to move to the next level. We need to find out if this soil is contaminated. You might have to spend a little money getting a soil test. But then you find out it's contaminated. How bad do you really want this corner? Yeah, you might want it bad enough that you will dig all that out.
How far do they put the gas tanks? Up underneath the ground usually?
Not too far under the
6,
ground. Yeah,
8
just
foot?
they just get them under the ground to
Okay.
where, they don't run into them with the cars.
Okay.
But they were metal and they're going to leak. And pretty much all the gas stations, the ground under there was polluted.
How many gallons do they hold?
Oh, yeah, a couple thousand at least. And over time, it's just oozing out. We got a picture here in a minute. But the remediation part falls on all owners of that property. All the way back. The gas station, the guy that owned the gas station may be dead. His heirs are liable for the damage to that land. Yes, this is
Wow.
circular comprehensive environmental response liability act. Liability on this is strict liability. There's no defense for it. You put the stuff in the ground, you got to clean it up. Everybody that's owned that property since then liable for the cleanup cost. If one can't do it, it falls on somebody else. Banks don't like foreclosing on these kind of properties because now their name's in the chain of title.
Yeah.
And they could be on the hook for cleaning this up. Strict liability. This is what it looks like. So the tank's leaking, there's the water table. It gets in the water. And then everybody around there has got it in their water. Snow's bad stuff. Underground storage tanks, a little article that I'm not sure who wrote that. Department of Environmental Management. And that's pretty much what we just went over.
I have a question.
Alright?
So if you live in close proximity to a gas station, you run that risk of having that gas in your water line, in your waters?
Not if you got public water,
Okay.
but if you had a well,
Mm,
probably.
okay.
Probably would, because you see where it's oozing down to the water table, and that's where your well's going. You turn on your faucet and it smells like gas. Uh-oh, got a problem here. Property condition. Y'all have heard caveat emptor? Y'all ever heard that word? Caveat emptor means let the buyer beware. Be careful with them on the test, because they know that that's a strange word to us, and they'll throw caveat ventor, which is let the seller beware. And that's not going to ever be an answer to any of the questions. The answer to the question is going to be caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. In Alabama, the seller only has to disclose health and safety issues. Like if the seller knows he had a gas tank buried in his front yard because this was a farm or something, and he got a diesel tank buried out there at one time. Well, chances are there's pollution there, and he would need to let you know, well, there may be a health and safety issue here. I think that would be a material fact. If he knows about hidden defects, like the floor is kind of soft right through here, and he had a contractor come out and look at it, and the contractor said, yeah, the termites have eaten that up pretty bad. You think just a normal buyer walking around in there would know there are termites under there?
Nope.
That would be a hidden defect. That's a latent is the word for hidden. The other word is patent. Patent means it's obvious. You walk in the room and you look up and there's a big hole in the ceiling. You can see the sky. That's obvious. You don't have to disclose those. Anybody walking through would see that defect. They wouldn't see the termites, wouldn't know they were there. But the seller knew it.
Right.
Now, if the seller didn't know it, he didn't have any duty to discover it. You, as an agent, have no duty to discover that. But if the seller tells you, yeah, the floor is eaten up with termites, now you have that knowledge. And what have you got to do with that knowledge? Disclose it, exactly. The deal with these kind of questions are, you walking across the floor and you feel it soft, you might want to say, do you know why the floor is soft here?
I just keep moving.
And they say, oh, don't worry about that. Come on, let's look in here. Ask the right questions. You're looking around the ceiling and you see a brown spot. That should be clue to you that there's something going on up above there. You say, does the roof leak right there? Well, the roof may not leak right there. The roof may leak way over here and it's just draining down a board till it gets over here and drips down. You got to phrase your questions. Does the roof leak? Don't get so specific that they can say, no, it doesn't leak right there. It leaks everywhere else, but you pick the one spot that's got the, that's actually where Junior had a Coca-Cola and he spewed it up there. Be specific in your questions. Remember our hard questions we have to answer? The question they have to answer truthfully and completely. A half-truth is a whole lie. Got seller disclosure information down there, and we just have the next slide here where it says Alabama has no seller disclosure law. This form up there, they really don't have an official form because they don't have a law. Most states have a seller disclosure form, 3 or 4 pages. Now, Florida has one, Georgia has one. When you fill out the listing agreement, you say, seller, I need this information too. And they fill it out. Now, here in Alabama, the Real Estate Commission has one on their website that you can go on there and get it. And you can give that to the seller with your offer and say, I want this filled out too. And it's up to them whether they do it or not. You can't force them to do it. But if they won't fill it out, I see red flags going up everywhere.
So it's not required?
It's not required. There's no seller disclosure form in Alabama. Some brokers have one. But it tells it's got some questions on there. And here's what one looks like. Starts out with environmental issues. Was a house built before 1978? Well, yes, no, I don't know. I don't know may be the correct answer. But if they know, then they need to answer. And then it'll go on down through here and ask about formaldehyde, asbestos, material, lead-based. Do you know about any of these things? Now they've got to answer truthfully. If they lie to you here, that's fraud. So lay it out there and say, tell me all these things. The systems. Do you have any problems with the plumbing, electrical, appliances, floors, walls, windows? You just pretty much list everything that could be wrong with the house. Ask them a direct question. They have to answer a direct question. So that's why a seller disclosure form may be a good idea. You're buying an old house, just slip one of those in with the offer. I want this filled out, and my offer's contingent on the answers here. Next one, Alabama has no law on stigmatized property. Stigmatized property is one that may have or may not have had something and people think there's something wrong with it. Maybe a ghost that lives in the attic because there was a triple murder suicide here. Well, the ghost in the attic may not be such a material fact because that ghost is probably in the mind of the seller. But the fact there was a triple murder and suicide here, do you think that would affect a lot of people's wanting to live in this house? Yeah, everybody in here, head shaking. Would you want to live there? No. You think that's
How cheap can I get it for?
Yeah, how cheap can I get it?
Never get your head.
I mean, if you believe in ghosts, you know what I'm saying.
It don't matter.
Well,
They call Ghostbusters in there.
It takes so long for that
No,
stigmatism
that's
to
too
come
much.
off though.
Yes.
Because just like one of my apartment communities, they have, it used to be Abbey Inverness before that was Lakes at Inverness. And you remember back in the day, it was like drug lords and the big like,
Okay.
you know, it was a big murder, suicide kind of thing with like a whole bunch of money involved. So nobody even wanted to rent there for years and years.
Yes. That's
Because of it.
stigmatized.
Mhm.
And that's what this is. The thing about being stigmatized, is that a material fact?
Nope.
That's where we get into a gray area here. And if we get into gray areas, we need some guidance on it. We need to tell the seller, the neighbors are going to tell them. they're gonna be walking around and they're gonna find out, and if they find out later on that you didn't tell them this, they're coming after you.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
can
gonna-
they do anything?
Well, yeah, they probably could, they gonna sue you, and nobody wins in court except who? The lawyers.
Yeah, but this is not required, is it?
Not required, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask the seller, say, we probably need to disclose this, because this is something that's gonna affect anybody's buying decision. Everybody in the room, all of you just said, yeah, I don't want it. It would affect my decision. Well, if you've got the buyer client and you're looking at this house, is that a piece of information you would want? Yeah. So we're gonna discuss it with the seller, and we're gonna get their permission up front to talk about this. It may hurt the sale, but eventually it'll sell, and Cedric will come along sooner or later when he gets to the right price. He'll buy it. He ain't afraid of no ghosts.
You don't know what, well, you know.
He'll call Ghostbusters.
People might have got killed in the house that you live in right now, years and years ago. Don't nobody, ain't anybody even alive when it happened. Don't nobody know. You know,
People got killed all over this place, so.
that's my point. People die everywhere too.
There was a war.
I tried to find a ghost picture that was funny but not gruesome at all. I like this one the best.
They look happy to me.
Home inspections. That's one of your contingencies in every contract. Home inspection, you've got 7 days to get it done. And you don't ever want to buy a house without a home inspection. If your buyer says, no, I don't need one, then you need to have a form that says,
Refuse.
buyer refused to get a home inspection even after we told them the value of it. Because they're gonna move in, they're gonna find all these things wrong, and then your phone's gonna start ringing. Why didn't you tell me the roof leaks? Why didn't you tell me the air conditioning didn't work? What are you gonna do about it? I told you to get a home inspection. Get it in writing. That's, the home inspector does a surface inspection. He'll walk around looking for spots on the ceiling. If he sees them, he'll make a note of it. He feels that soft spot in the floor, he'll make a note of it. He sees anything. He opens the doors up with the HVAC, and y'all need to learn those initials. HVAC, that's what? Heating, air conditioner, and ventilation. That's what those stand for. You're going to hear those so much. If he opens that up and the front of this thing is all rusty, he's going to make a note of that. And he's going to say, you might want to get a HVAC contractor to look at this. Or if you see two systems in there, one looks brand new, the other one's all rusty. I'm betting we're going to have to replace this one pretty soon. You might want to write that in the contract. Seller to replace HVAC system. He doesn't do the detail inspections like termite, wood infestation. That's a specialized, you've got to have a license to do I don't know what kind of license that is, but all the termite people have that kind of license. And they also have to have that for the wood infestation. Wood infestation is anything that eats the wood, not necessarily termites. There can be other bugs that eat wood. There can be mold, mildew, those kind of funguses that eat the wood. That's what a wood infestation report is. If you want to have a lead-based paint test done, the home inspector doesn't do that. He may say, you know, the paint's peeling pretty bad. It looks like it's been on there for 30 or 40 years. You might want to get a lead-based paint test done too. He's just going to give you the broad, here's what I see, here's what I think. He's not likely to get up on the roof, but he's got a selfie stick with his camera, and he'll put it up there and make some pictures so you can see the shingles up close. And you can, once you know shingles, you can look at them and say, this roof's gone. But he's not gonna do that. He also doesn't do stuff like flood certification. That's a special, somebody's gonna contact the EPA's, well, they're gonna look on the EPA's website and look and see if this property's in that. But the home inspector's an important part of your team. He's gonna give you about a 30-page report along with all the pictures. And they're $400, $450 for a home inspection. And it's well worth the money. If he finds one thing that's gonna cost you $1,000, yeah, I'd rather know it now than a week after I move in. Now here's some fraud. I got all the important stuff underlined with red, and you can see it pretty much covers everything on here. It says, your company has a listing on a house that has a basement. And you have a client, you have a buyer in there that says, does the basement leak? You know it does. What are you going to say?
Yeah.
That's what you better say. Because you're looking around there and it's got 3 or 4 watermarks. Uh-oh, I know 3 times it's flooded. 3 or 4 high water marks. Here's some possible answers to your buyer's question. Where you say, does the basement leak? You could say, I'm not sure. It's not really rained since we listed it. Is that a good answer? Because you've seen the watermarks. They have too. This house is being sold as is. We're making no representation about its condition. They ask you a direct question. As is or not, they ask you a direct question. We need to get back upstairs. There's a lot more to see. No, not a good answer either. Maybe just a little flooding in certain conditions. Probably still not a good answer. This house is a great buy for you. All right, are any of these answers good?
No.
No. You think we got a material fact here with the basement flooding? If any of these answers, all these answers are likely fraud under Alabama law. The case is based on statutory Alabama fraud law, which says that the suppression of a material fact, which a party under an obligation to communicate constitutes fraud. You know it leaks. They ask you a direct question. And you say, oh no. I can see the lines on the wall. Material condition concerning property. The seller has an obligation to disclose these known facts. Where one responds to an inquiry, it is his duty to impart correct information. He's guilty of fraud if he denies all knowledge of a fact and it knows it to exist. You can lose your license over this. You can lose your checkbook too. You won't need a checkbook after they get through with you. Got some stars over here. If you're an agent for the buyer or seller, you have a duty without being asked to disclose material facts to your client. That's if they have a client relationship with you. You have that duty. You assumed the duty. Remember caveat emptor, we haven't talked about the exceptions, but that's one of the exceptions. Regardless of agency relationship, you have a duty to accurately and completely answer any specific question about known material facts regarding the property, regardless of who poses the question. Back to our question the buyer asked, does the basement leak? Your answer is?
Yes.
Yes.
They got all serious. Da-da-da-dum.
I don't want you losing your license. Big Daddy won't like that.
Jim Daddy.
Big Daddy needs you out there getting him some money. You lose your license and I gotta go to court with you and appear before the real estate commission because you said, no, I don't think it leaks. All right, let's cover this slide and then we're gonna take a break. A lot of people don't understand the difference between home insurance, home inspection, home warranty. Aren't those all the same thing? No, they're not. Home insurance covers something that may happen in the future. Those are called perils. Perils are things like fire, tornado, wind, smoke, vandalism. There's a list of things that they cover under home insurance, also known as hazard insurance. Then you've got a home warranty. You can buy this. It's a 1-year protection for the systems in the house, such as the water heater starts leaking and you've got a home warranty on it. You call the home warranty people, pay a deductible, and they'll come out and fix the water heater or replace it. Same thing with the air conditioner. It quits working, you have a home warranty, that's what it covers. Your home insurance doesn't cover that. Home inspection, we just talked about that, what the home inspector does. He's not related to either one of those things. Then you've got title insurance. Well, what does that cover? That covers something that happened in the past. Your other insurances cover things that may happen in the future. Title insurance covers cloud on the title, which is something wrong with the title, fraud, those kind of things. And then down at the bottom, FHA VA addendum. I'm not even sure why I have that on this slide, but we'll talk about it since we're here. FHA VA addendum is if you have your buyer is going to use either one of those type financing, there's an addendum. Addendum, that means it was added at the time of the contract. Remember that. No, there's amendment, but addendum says that if the house doesn't appraise for purchase price, the buyer can either walk or the seller's probably going to renegotiate down to whatever the appraised price is. Any questions on what we've covered so far? We've got some good stuff in here tonight. Y'all want to raise kids in a house with lead-based paint?
I think I was.
Yes, sir.
Break's over. It took an hour and a half for break.
Oh, really?
Learn how to edit. So I'll edit out and we'll start. Alright, back to the break. Going to move on to material facts. We kind of beat material facts up already. That's any information that would affect a reasonable person's decision to buy or not to buy. Now, if it's confidential, like the seller tells you, you know, I've got to be out of here in a month. My new job's in another city. I'm really motivated. You can tell them. You can tell a buyer that. And some of them want you to tell them. They think it'll motivate them to make an offer.
Yeah.
But if it's confidential information, you need to have their permission. Don't just say, well, you know, their job's somewhere else now. They got to be there. So get permission. Then another one, the seller tells you, don't tell them the basement floods. Well, what are we going to do there?
We're gonna tell them.
Well, we're going to tell them I've got to disclose that. That's a material fact. And if they insist that you don't tell, then your best course of action at that point is to say, I'm not going to be able to represent you. Because if they want to lie and cover that up, you can bet there are more problems coming. And most of those problems can get your license.
All this work and I'm gonna get my
Yeah, you've
license.
been sitting there all this time. And the seller's going to say, well, don't tell them that. And you say, well, I got to have this commission so bad, I'll suppress that information. Well, no, don't do it.
D.
I'll live it.
D, that's right. None of the above. Does Alabama have a uniform disclosure
No,
statement?
no. No, I didn't even know what that was.
No, that was.
I do,
He didn't
man.
look like a pusher, did he?
It did. It just looked familiar.
They didn't look like clothes.
Hey,
Buy your shoes. Oh.
Little ladies.
Hey,
I've heard the right answer twice, but I've heard two wrong answers, so I'm gonna let y'all come to consensus here.
hey,
I'm
hey.
saying,
Ain't it big, right?
hey.
No, just stay.
Scroll
I
left.
think,
It's
and
big. You gotta disclose it, do an acre too.
Do it, agent, do
Oh, cousin ain't immediate family, that's
There you go.
It's B, yeah.
It's gonna be dual agency, you've got to disclose that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Your cousin,
It's not.
not, I mean,
Spouse.
parent, child, spouse.
Oh, that's not a good family name.
Yep. You need an acronym for that. I'm not figuring you out one.
You kept them
Give
out.
me $100 tip. I guess she wants an A on her test.
Is that what you want?
Please.
I'll bring you a whole tree.
You know where one is?
Well, yeah.
Right here.
Which one's not an element of fraud?
D.
Public relied on this statement.
Not an element of fraud.
You watch them on
D?
not, when they say
Not.
not,
So which one?
take that
is?
word out and read the question again without the not. Say, an element of fraud is, and you read that first one, material misstatement, is that fraud?
Not an
Yes.
element of fraud.
Public relied on that misstatement, that's your other part of fraud. Someone's damaged by the misstatement. You have three elements of fraud. You made a misstatement, they relied on it, they were damaged by it. So we got all three of them there.
So
And the bottom one, the broker has a policy concerning fraud. Has nothing to do with the others.
Customer asked the right question.
Which situation?
Customer is asking the right question.
I need to get rid of one of those words.
Holiday.
The customer asked a direct question. I need to get rid of the is.
He is asking directly.
Yeah, sound like I went to Birmingham Public Schools. Customer is asked a direct question. So read that one as customer asked a direct question.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, that one wrong.
That's the one, that's our answer.
D is the answer.
Uh-huh.
Scratch out.
Homeowner insurance.
Covered.
Rising water?
Both of
B. That's flood insurance, isn't it?
That's flood insurance. Your homeowner's insurance covers these other things, falling water, vandalism, fire. You've got to have flood insurance to
That one
cover
was B.
rising water.
Correct.
D, D's obvious. That would be a patent defect. These others are kind of hidden.
Information,
Hey.
request.
you gotta look it up here.
I say C, because you need to know the square footage, right? Of the
Well,
home.
we didn't even have square footage on our radar until about 3 years ago. Wasn't in the
Oh, really?
MLS. It was secret.
Yes, A.
A, if your client requests you find out something like school zones, then you have a duty to discover it, because remember, you take on extra, you assume an extra duty when you are a client relationship.
So if they ask you to find out if
Yeah, they
somebody
ask
died in
you-
the house, you're supposed to go find it out.
Yeah, they say, what's the school zone? What's the square footage? Then you have a duty now to find that out for them.
But if they ask if somebody died in the house, I gotta find it out too.
Well, you might, if they ask you, you ask the other owner and say, did anybody die in here? And how'd you know? And back on this one for 1 second, school zones, your MLS listings. You always go back to where the property's been listed before and look at what they have in there. And one of the things that'll be in there will be school zones. But just because it was in a listing from 5 years ago, or even 1 year ago, the school zones may have changed. So you might not be able to rely on what was published before. The square footage, the tax district, those kind of things are not going to change. But school zones, watch those.
But you can change school zone too. If it's in the county and you now you're in the city, you can, you know, annex your house to the city.
May be possible, but when you're listing a property, you're listing it how it's zoned right now.
Or if you have the option, like my house is in the county, but I can list it with the city of Homewood, it asks $400, so.
And you're in,
Yeah, so if it's all the houses in Homewood.
and then your house goes up in value.
Yeah, then you pay, no, then you have to pay $4,000 every year to the city of Homewood.
Going off.
Actually, you know,
Well, that's what they're
could
buying
just
in
take
Homewood, they're
your
buying the
house and
school
do
zones there.
they can have it.
Right. Home inspection is performed by who?
City. License
Well, that was quick. Does a real estate broker do that home inspection? No. Now it says city building inspector, some of those guys do it on the side. And the one on the bottom, seller, no, you certainly don't want the seller to do the home inspection, nor do you want the seller to pay for the home inspection, or pick out the home inspector.
A.
Hey, should have put that down at D, make y'all read more.
Leighton. Defects.
D,
Well,
none
no.
of the above.
None of the above.
You don't have to just go and look if you see something.
Right, you have no duty to discover. If your client asks you to find out some information, now you got a duty. The client says, find out about Megan law violators. Yeah, I got a problem with that too. Because the rule is if you start doing it for one, you're supposed to do it for everybody from now on. I would probably refer them to, with the sheriff's site or whoever's site's got that information on it. On to advertising. Got some issues with advertising. Antitrust, do not call,
Facebook.
canned spam. We're gonna open up our can of spam tonight. And how does this apply to social and internet marketing? Sherman Act, 1890, been around quite a while. Violates, well, I should say restrains free trade. We need an open market, fair system where the playing field is level and everybody's playing by the same rules. What we don't want to get in a situation of is price fixing. Let's just say, right now, all of you work for our company. We can talk about commissions. We can say, well, from now on, we're not going to take any residential listings under 9%. That's going to be our new company policy. And some of y'all saying, I guess I got to find a new company. Because I'll never be able to take a residential listing at 9%. So it's probably not going to have any impact on the market. But what if we're all brokers from competing brokerages? And we're having a lunch and learn here today. And somebody says, you know, I just can't make it on this 8% commission that we're charging for residential now. My expenses are too high and I just can't make it. Y'all having that same problem?
Yeah.
Everybody, yeah, I can't make it either. I need more. And then somebody says, what if we all went up to 9%?
No,
I'm good.
Yeah, sounds good. Everybody starts chiming in, yeah, that sounds good to me too. And we're all competitors.
That's
And
good.
now, this group of 10 people here,
Just became a monopoly.
yeah, have created an unlevel playing field for
Okay.
yeah, we've a cartel to where, who's it gonna hurt?
customer.
The public, yeah. The seller, it's gonna hurt the buyer too, because the seller's gonna want a higher price for the house to cover the commission now. So everybody's gonna get hurt by us fixing prices. That's why it's illegal. There was an article I pulled up, it's down at the bottom, price fixing in UK. It was there, in England, their laws are pretty much like ours, because our laws kind of came from there. And there was a bunch of real estate agents in some little town up there sitting around for lunch one day and did exactly what we just talked about. They all got in trouble. Interesting, if you want to go there and see it. Next one is boycotting. All right, we're all sitting around, same situation. We're all brokers sitting here for a lunch and learn. And somebody said, did you hear about discount broker moving in? They're taking listings for 1%. How are we going to compete with that? I know how we can compete. We won't show their listings. Uh-oh. What's that? Who's that going to hurt?
Public.
The public. Because at 1%, more of the public's going to gravitate toward that broker who's going to give them a better deal. And if we're boycotting their listings, not showing them, then we're hurting the public. Allocation of customers, same group. We're from all over the town, all over the county. And I say, you know, I understand you've just opened this brand new office downtown. I really don't like going downtown. It's too crowded, the streets are all one ways and I never know where I'm going and it's just too much trouble for me to go downtown. And you told me you don't like coming out here. How about I'll just send you all the business downtown and you send me all the business out here. James kicks in and said, well, what about me? I'm over here, why don't y'all send me yours and I'll sit, and we all start saying, yeah, and we can just work from our office. We won't have to go 5 minutes from our office in any direction. It'll help us, but how is it gonna hurt the public?
No competition.
No competition. Then we can say, yeah, it's 9%. And where are they going? There's not another broker that works this area.
Yeah, I know.
Restriction on competition. You can't tell people that, well, you can't do rentals. Yeah, the MLS says you can only do sales. We're not going to put any of your rental listings in the MLS. That's going to restrict the business you can do. Bottom's tie-in agreements, okay? If you want this service from our company, you want us to do the closings for you, you've also got to use our title company. That's a tie-in agreement. Who's that going to hurt?
Customer.
The customer, the public.
So how does Betty Minor have her own title company?
Well, you can have it, she just cannot require you to use it. We're going to get to RESPA in just a minute. RESPA says that the buyer has the right to choose their service providers. Do not call list. Y'all ever get these calls all the time?
Oh, every day.
I can get your Google listing up, you can be in #1 spot. Yeah, I don't need any more insurance. Yeah, I know you got a special deal on tanning, but I don't need tanning. It's just all day long you're getting these junk calls.
Yeah, they say, please don't hang up.
Yeah, please, it's an important call, please don't hang up. The do not call list is a fairly new thing, I'm gonna say 5 years or so. they created this database, and you can go there and put your phone number on this database that says solicitors can't call you. Uh-oh. If they do, there's a $11,000 fine.
It doesn't work.
No, I know it doesn't work.
I think they
I
call
got
you
my
more when
number
you put your
20
number
times
on
over there. And I still get calls, like 10 calls every day.
There are exceptions. And yours is probably the first one. They're debt collectors. They're calling you. They say, you owe me money. They can call you even if you know.
I don't owe anybody anything.
That's, if your number's on there, debt collectors can call you. Solicit donations, you know, they can call you. Political calls, they can call you. Now, here's a business relationship. You requested information from somebody, they can call you back. Even though your number's on there, you call them and say, hey, I want information about this. They don't have to look your number up, they can just call you right back. Now, if you got a relationship with them, you can keep calling them for up to 18 months. For sale by owners, you're not supposed to call them either, unless you have a legitimate, real buyer. You can't call them and say, hey, I got a buyer, and you not have one.
I'll get one of those calls.
Yeah.
Somebody
Yeah,
call
but
me,
it-
get them all the information that, and I got tired of it. It's like, you got a buyer or not?
Yeah.
If you don't have a buyer, please hang up. Don't waste my time. I just told her, because she had me like for 10 minutes and asked me all kind of questions.
Yeah. They're trying to
It's
develop
like, I
that.
have a didn't have no buyer.
Alright, so that's our do not call list. $11,000 fine. Here's our spam. Can spam. See the can of spam right there?
Yeah.
There's some bad stuff in the can of spam. First thing is its name. The Controlling Assault from Non-Solicited Pornography and Marketing Act. You know, those legislators, they must stay up all night long coming up with these
They don't
names.
get no sleep.
But what it is, it's guidelines that we're under since we are businesses. We're soliciting business. We can't lie. We can send an email out saying, you know, real estate services, you can't, you're trying to sell real estate services, you can't send an email saying, you just won $1,000. That's a misleading heading. You've got to have a true heading in there. Real estate services, I can help you sell your house or something. It's got to be true. Here's what I can do. Got to be identified as an advertisement. You've got to have a valid physical address so I guess the spam police can track you down. And you got to have an opt-out message down at the bottom. Y'all all got these emails. Down at the bottom it says to opt out, to not receive any more of these, click here and say unsubscribe or something. Well, they've got to have that. Similar rules apply to unsolicited faxes. Facebook, media, internet. Y'all see the word internet. Internet's a proper noun. It's always capitalized. Every now and then you'll see internet written with a little I. And you say, that's wrong. Facebook. I just got this email from the Real Estate Commission on the 8th, so that was like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Briefly legal about Facebook advertising. Kind of hard to read it from back there. I'll maybe read it up here. Today's question is, what does the license law require for advertising on my Facebook page? Pretty straightforward, because everybody's got Facebook, and you get a listing, what are you going to want to do with it? You want to tell everybody. Alright, so you get a picture of the house, and you write up a little quick article, wonderful 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Hoover for $59,000.
Yeah, right.
Maybe,
Sell with that.
and
Not zoned for
maybe deceptive advertising there, but got your attention.
You did.
Now the other things we got to put on there too. It says, Alabama. Social media requirements are simple. Your company name must be on every post, and none of your advertising can be false, fraudulent, or misleading. 59,000 in Hoover, probably misleading. Probably
Another thing that I was looking at that they made me do the other day was the terms and policies and the privacy agreement on Facebook and my websites. I had to do that, so you might want to look at that as well.
And it goes on to, now the not so simple part. Every single post or picture must contain the qualifying broker or company name as licensed. This means every single picture posted, your company name is included in your Facebook name. For example, Mandy Lynn, ABC Realty, when you comply, for example, your Facebook name is only Mandy Lynn, then every picture you post has to have the company name too. Not just your name, got to have the company name. All your advertising has 3 basic rules we're going to get to, I think, right here. The red probably means it's important.
I wonder.
Shall be a violation to publish or cause to be published any advertisement which deceives or likely to deceive the public or any matter tends to create a misleading impression, fails to identify the person causing the advertising to be placed as a licensed broker or salesman. That's pretty clear. You put an ad out, even on Facebook, you've got to identify yourself as a licensed salesperson and your company. They want to know who's doing the advertising, because if it says $59,000 3-bedroom house in Hoover, it's probably going to get a call from somebody saying, show me that one. And you're going to say, well, that one's sold, but we have another one just around the corner from it that's $359,000. Got a couple other things here. Real estate companies, brokers, salesperson must advertise and use the name they are legally licensed. They don't have a problem with me using Steve instead of Steven. They said, we understand that's the same. You don't have to put Steven on your advertising. You can go by Steve. Okay, but I can't go by Tiny. That may be my nickname.
Yeah.
Everybody I've ever known knows me as Tiny. That's the name I would probably want to promote. And if so, then we're going to get to that in a minute. You go on the real estate's website, Real Estate Commission's website, pull up your license, and it's got a little place there that says nickname. And you fill in Tiny. Then you can advertise yourself as Tiny.
That's cool.
Group, y'all seen these? The mega real estate agents. The biggest team in Birmingham. There is not a real estate agent named Mega Team. It's got to have one of the agents own that team. The team may have 10 members on it. One of them has got to have their name on that advertising. It can say Mega Team this big, but somewhere down here it's got to have the licensee's name. At least one person that's in that team on there. And what else has it got to have? The company name. Those 2 pieces of information. Okay? That's tiny.
Iron Man.
Iron Man. Johnny Montgomery was in the Iron Man competition. How old do you think he is there? 20-something? Johnny's older than me. But he was in this and won awards, and everybody in town knew who Johnny Montgomery was by the name Iron Man. You think he would want to?
I remember him.
You remember him? Yeah, he's still in this business. He owns part of ERA. I wonder why he's with ERA. But that's how the people know him by Iron Man still. So he wants to promote that. Still his name's Johnny Montgomery, but He's got Iron Man up there just as big, and a picture of him, so you remember, that's who I was. Back in the day, I was the Iron Man, and somebody will say, yeah, I remember you. Yeah, that's who I'm gonna call to list my house.
Bam,
So you can do that.
bam, sold.
Bam, sold. Oh yeah, bam, sold. This was a flip. This road goes down the hill and runs into Brookwood Mall. This house was a 1950s, you know, really needing a flip. And he sold it, and you ought to see the house now. It is a matching, beautiful, and guess whose sign's out there? He never moved the sign. Because the people that he sold it to were the flippers, and they were probably his clients. He probably does flips with them anyway, and he found that one for him, and he never even had to move his sign.
Advertising.
Got the commission going in. Now he's going to get the commission on the flip, and hopefully the people that are buying this one are going to need to sell their house, and he'll pick up that one. Advertising a few points. We've gone over this already. There's the deal on Facebook. We've already talked about that. Got to have certain things.
$18.66.
1866, that's the original law. I don't think we've even talked about this, just slides out of place. I'll have to fix that. I got 2 errors I gotta fix here tonight. Y'all call, I'm gonna be still awake at midnight, so.
With that coffee, yeah.
Yeah, that coffee, I'll let you know. Change those 2 slides. Civil Rights Act of 1866 bars discrimination based on race in real estate transactions in any case, with that one exception. Miss Murphy.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Yeah, we're gonna get to Miss Murphy.
Miss Murphy exception.
Okay.
Hey.
We got Miss Murphy pretty quick, didn't
Y'all don't like A?
Hey,
I don't understand.
we? Trump Day say. 2017.
where's the little bag?
That was it.
No.
Yeah, those.
It could be now. Get in the door. That's the first priority of the ADA, it's called. C.
Oh, it said do not, my bad.
Yeah, watch that. Didn't you tell me that they have the word all caps, like not, the do not call this, the do not call rules, do not, that do not, that would be capitalized.
Yes, or to have accept and bold.
Yeah, they're bolded up.
Yeah.
So I gotta fix 3 slides now. Make a note over here. Be more careful with your slides.
See, accepted
And
message
it's,
line.
it prohibits on it, so it's A.
That's A, yeah. Gotta have opt-out.
I said, you have to have an opt-out.
And now I got 2 right answers on this one. Emails with deceptive, it prohibits that too. There's 4 slides I've got. Maybe we need to go home.
Maybe.
Or y'all say, what y'all talking? All the following required in advertising except.
See?
C, blind ad exception. A blind ad, also known as Humpty Dumpty ads. They're not real. They'll have that 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Hoover for $59,000, and everybody calls on that one. They'll actually make a phone call on that one.
We got one sold, but you know we got one.
We got more. That's a blind.
What about the phone call?
This one's out of place. We haven't talked about this yet.
Fair Housing Act?
Fair Housing Act. Y'all seen our poster out here in the hall on the bulletin board. You're required to have that poster in every office. Fair Housing Act. Maybe I should have put it after all this. These are advertising words you've got to be careful using. Some of them you cannot use. It says bold. These are not acceptable in advertising. Able-bodied. I said, no, here we go. AIDS. No AIDS. You can't put that in an ad. No AIDS. No alcoholics. No Appalachians. No American Indians. No Asians.
Bachelor pad. You can't put
You
bachelor
do that.
pad in there?
Why?
Because it singles out the gentleman.
I guess so.
And then there's like perfect fixer-upper for a handyman was one of the ones that somebody got fined for.
Because
And
not everybody
handyman.
can do it.
And a
Yeah.
handyman.
Yeah. This list is actually 3 pages long.
I'm putting no blacks on mine. They tear up all the time. See, I'm just sorry. The ladies ain't gonna pay my rent. They tear up. You know. I'm just saying.
You're right.
Nah, I'm just
You can kid about that, I can't. There's a link to, there's like three pages of words that you can't use, be cautious of some. One that got me was within walking distance of Catholic schools. Well, there you're hitting religion and handicap. Well, I can't walk. Well, now you're discriminating against 2 groups with 1 ad. Okay, here's fresh corn. Y'all's first trip through fresh corn. Fresh corn is an acronym you need to commit to memory. Fresh corn. F is familial status. That's a family with children. Includes a pregnant, let's say person. I don't want to get slapped here. Prohibits discrimination based on race, and that's the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Got a little e, that means equal opportunity for everyone. Sex, can't discriminate on sex. This one's actually been broadened since this. We'll get to that next slide. Handicap, AIDS, also included as handicap. You cannot disclose that the person that was living in this house had AIDS, died of AIDS in this house. You just keep that to yourself. Someone asks you if someone died in this house of AIDS, you can't tell them. You can probably say, federal law prohibits me from disclosing anything about the past occupants of this property.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna take that as a yes.
He was black too.
Y'all know this is being recorded, it's going out to the internet.
What kind of class he has?
You're not going to stage this in Alabama. People will see this and
This is how great Hoover people get
Yeah.
along.
yeah. AIDS is covered. Alcoholics are covered under the handicap status.
They gotta be documented though, right?
If they are in treatment, they're covered. If they're not in treatment, you can discriminate against them. Same thing with drug users. If they're in treatment, they're covered. Are you in treatment?
Not yet.
We can pick on him if he's not in treatment.
I'm not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
What does that mean, that they have to show you
I've never understood that, because you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, you can't call them and
I mean,
say,
it's
is Fran
private.
is Fran in your group?
I know, it's all protected information.
I guess they got a note from their
Now,
doctor or
it ain't,
something.
alcohol anonymous, it's not all protected, cause you walking around, your first day there, you get a keychain, like, I was at the meeting.
No, we're gonna.
I'm saying, not for alcohol.
He got a friend that went.
Yeah,
Friend of a friend.
No,
I'm just saying.
I got caught with some marijuana and I had to go to drug and alcohol classes and they made me do AA.
You know this is on the internet.
Hey. Don't do drugs. Don't do drugs, right?
I know. You should
I'm
have
just
your back chain.
And we'll move on.
Carry on.
Got
carry on.
fresh.
Nothing to see here, nothing to see here.
Now our next word is corn. Corn. We got color is a C. Now our little o is your E&O insurance won't cover a violation of fair housing. Religion is covered, and nationality is covered. So there's 7 protected classes. You'll never just remember 7 words at random that don't seem to be hooked up in any other way. So that's why we're going to put them in this acronym. Fresh corn. Now y'all don't look at this. Y'all look over here somewhere. What's F?
Familiar status.
Familiar. R.
Right.
E.
Equal
Equal opportunity for everyone. S.
Sex.
H.
Handicap.
Handicap.
C.
Color.
Color.
O.
Equal.
We'll cover it. R. Religion. N. Nationality. Commit that to memory. Is there a test question on that?
Sure. Probably about 5 of them.
Yeah, they'll ask it in 2 or 3 different ways. So just be, there's a point right here on your test.
Color and race,
That's different. 'Cause even
I guess
within
it
one
is.
race, you'll have different colors.
yeah, that's true.
Got 3 stars here. There must be something important we want to look at. Fair housing advertising is violations, more common. It says, fair housing law means not just ads in newspapers, anywhere, internet, Facebook, anywhere you put it, same law applies. On the phone, you're talking about it. That's the same thing. It's the same discrimination. Whether you're advertising, talking to somebody on the phone, they're going to tell me about the neighbors. I don't know anything about the neighbors. You want to learn about the neighbors? Walk over there and knock on their door. There a bunch of kids around here? I don't know. Also means that you can say in writing, phone, in person, it's all covered. Down here, a maintenance man got in trouble somewhere, it says in Michigan, because a passerby asked him about the places only real Americans live here. Well, what's a real American?
Indian, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you'd be discriminating against the whole fresh corn group. This is the required office post, right? That other question, I got to pull that other question down below this one, because this is required. It's hanging on a wall out there. There's an exception to this, and it's called senior housing. The senior housing rules are the 62 and older exception. This is just a straightforward, says, to meet this exception, every occupant in your property must be at least 62 years old. Or you can have the 55-year-old exception, and that means 80% of the people have to be over 55.
So if you have a facility where
Yeah.
everybody's 55 or 62
Yeah.
years older, okay.
They don't want any kids around them. They're tired of kids.
Retirement years.
Yeah, retirement. I've done my time. Kids away from me. And there'll be people that don't want to be around kids. So you've got 2 exceptions. 62, that means everybody in there has got to be over 62. Or the 55 means 80% of the residents have to be over 55. So, Senior housing allows discrimination on age if.
Residents are over 60.
B.
B,
Two.
can't just put that notice, no children allowed.
No noisy kids.
Yeah.
D.
D, all of the following except. We're not gonna watch this video, but this video is about, this guy goes to an apartment, to rent the apartment. He's black, talks to the leasing agent who's black. She just can't wait for him to be there. But he's got to bring his girlfriend. So the next day, comes in with his girlfriend. She's not black. They sit down, and she tells the guy, "Oh no, there's been a mistake. It's been rented." Well, I just talked to you a few minutes ago, and you said it was available. She said, "Yeah, but things change." Well, why? So, well, you quit dating white women, then it'll change.
No, that's a fight right there.
Well, it's kind of funny because it's kind of all these roles are reversed from what you expect.
Mm-hmm.
You can go watch the video. It takes about 3 minutes, and we're not going to take the 3 minutes right now, but it's kind of funny. I mentioned earlier on handicap, not handicap, sex, the S on fresh. It has been expanded. I don't see the date on here. This has been within the last year. A judge ruled in a case in Colorado, these two gay women wanted to rent an apartment, and he said, "No, I don't want your kind in here." And they said, "Oh." So they took him to court, and guess who won? They did. That's not protected under fair housing, but the rules are expanding, and now it's covered. And it says federal judge, so that's probably going to mean it's same rule here now.
What's not protected by that under fair housing?
What's not protected?
Yeah, why wasn't it previously protected?
Well, in the sex, it just protected against sex. Like, you know, it wasn't long ago, women were not allowed to rent an apartment without some male saying, "Yes, you can."
Okay,
And-
so as in gay preference was
Yeah.
not protected?
No, that was not protected.
Okay.
That's my first year there.
Their sexual
Oh,
preference.
it wasn't that long ago, women were not allowed to vote.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
They weren't allowed, they couldn't get they couldn't open a bank account without their husband going in there and saying, "Okay."
They couldn't sign something.
Couldn't sign a lot of things. Things are changing. There's the latest change. Federal rules on protected classes, just kind of more of what, y'all got the gist of it though. All right, person with a physical disability.
Hey.
Yeah, that's what it's got.
Yeah, that one's the one that's false. You can't make them pay a higher security deposit. You can require a qualified contractor to do the work. In fact, you should. I certainly don't want somebody, yeah, I can use a hammer to build a ramp for somebody. Redlining. Redlining is a practice not only in loans, but pretty much real estate, sales, servicing and all. Since we're in Birmingham, Alabama, this is probably more true here than many places. Birmingham has a history of discrimination. They used to draw lines around areas that were all black or all white, and they didn't mix. So you would have a red line drawn around this area saying, okay, we're not even gonna show you a property in this area. Or in this case, it's redlining, they drew a line around areas like Fairfield, saying we're not gonna make loans in Fairfield. And their reasoning was, I think 1/3 of the loans in Fairfield went into foreclosure. That has nothing to do with race. That has everything to do with income and credit. But they drew a line around this, and statistically you could prove it was based on race. Here's what this is actually a red line map of Birmingham. These areas,
Noble.
we don't loan in that area.
What, in red?
Yeah, everything is red. They don't loan money in that area. And you get to looking at it real close.
Who said that?
There's a legend over here. I wish we could read it better, but it talks about the Negro areas.
When was that map done?
Birmingham like 77% black. Like.
Well, it's 60% black now. It looks like all that would be red.
Right.
I live downtown. And if it was red, I couldn't get a loan, even though I'm not black. The area would be redlined out for no loans in this area.
Oh, it didn't matter if you were black.
Didn't matter if you were black.
Oh,
They just
Statistic-
didn't send a loan to the area.
It's
Yeah.
just the area.
Oh, okay.
It's the area, but
It's too
statistically, you can prove
The
there are
area
more
is-
blacks in this area, and it was really race related.
Yeah. So this no longer,
Mm-mm.
on paper, well.
Yeah.
Is it
She's
based
like,
on
well,
property?
well.
Is it based on the property too, the values of the property or the?
No, it was based on, it was really based on race. That's what it was based on, because these, go on the website and you can blow this thing
Well,
up
that's
and read
since
it.
2015, but I mean like certain areas like.
Well, this is when I got the map. This
Okay.
is probably 60s maybe, late 60s, probably.
Really?
Looks like that's Mountain Brook.
They
They'll do loans there.
They blue.
They don't need loans.
It's green.
Yeah, Green, that's probably, what's next?
That's the first one.
Vestavia or something?
That's money.
But you can go on the website and click on this, and you can blow it up and read there's got over there, it tells you what each one of these colors mean. Oh, y'all like this, don't you? Yeah, y'all. Yeah.
It's,
Kind
I
of
wanna read
crazy.
that.
It's statistical, it's neat.
Yeah, it's statistical. Now, in 2008, I was listening to radio one day, and there was a guy from Wachovia Bank on there saying that Wachovia Bank had made a decision that they're not going to make any more loans in Fairfield. And I'm saying, I can't believe you're on the radio saying that.
Wow.
You know, they went like belly up a year later. Yeah, that's just redlining. He said it. Usually they don't say it.
They just don't do it.
Yeah, they just,
I have an excuse.
yeah, they got some other excuse. Yeah. Boy, y'all liked redlining. Blockbusting goes right along with it. Blockbusting is panic selling. Panic selling is where the neighborhoods were changing in the late 60s, 67, 68. Black would move into the neighborhood, and I'd come to you and say, guess who's moving in the neighborhood? And you'd say, who?
He said,
Yeah, I'd say, Indians.
Run!
Run. You better get out while you can before the property values drop. Guess who's moving in the neighborhood? And all of a sudden, I've got signs all over the neighborhood. What's that gonna do to property values? Gonna suppress them? It's discrimination. Blockbusting, that's what it was called. Panic selling is another word for it.
Redlining can also mean like when you're taking a customer out and you're pointing them to a certain area that
That's steering.
is to.
That's our next,
Oh, okay,
that's our
that's
next
right.
slide. Steering,
That's right.
Okay.
steering, that's right.
Oh, steering.
Wouldn't you rather be with other Indians?
Sure.
Sure. I got an Indian neighborhood over here. Let's look over here. Let's don't look
The
here.
fact that you say an Indian neighborhood is like,
I had people ask me that before.
Okay, I'm sorry, will you back up? Okay, blockbusting, is that just the term for when it happens?
Blockbusting is
Or are you
actually
saying
the
people
term.
do that?
they
Did.
moved down to
Like-
Wetumpka.
They don't do it
Did
now.
brokers do, I mean,
Yeah,
why
it was
would you,
brokers.
why would you do that to cause property values to go down?
You wanted listings. I'm the broker. I'm the pit daddy. I don't care.
Yeah, but you're-
I just want the money.
Racking up.
I want the
Yeah, but
listing.
you're
I want to
causing
sell
the
this.
property values to go
I don't
down.
care about the property
They don't
values.
sell.
I'm getting a commission.
Mm.
So I'm going, you say, guess who's moving into town? And you say, I gotta get out now. Well, let me just put this sign out in your yard. Yeah, and then I come over here. I got a sign in your yard and I got a sign in your yard. You like it here, huh? You like it here? You know they're moving in the neighborhood. You better get out while you can. And I put a sign in your, and I got a whole neighborhood full of signs now.
Yeah, right up.
Yeah, I'm gonna make commissions, and that's what it was all about. It was the brokers creating panic selling.
What if you move into, you go into a cul-de-sac, you sell a house with somebody in a cul-de-sac. Some families all know each other in that cul-de-sac. So they might just be referring you over there, not the fact that you know.
Could, but this was back in the late '60s, and it was panic selling because blacks were moving into the neighborhood. And the whites said, I better get out while I can. Because you know, you just told me they tear up the house. It did. They played into the stereotype.
Yeah, they was just like,
So we got three terms here. Three terms that are all test terms. We had, what was the first one? Redlining. Lawn around here, we're not gonna loan money in here, we're not gonna show a certain race properties in here. Next one is block busting. That's where the Indians are moving in and we're putting signs everywhere. And the other one is steering. Wouldn't you be happier over here with people like you?
Steering.
Jessica just mentioned apartments. All right, I manage an apartment complex here, and I got 10 buildings, and I got one I'm pushing all the families with small children over here.
So when you advertise, you can't put stuff like nice family-based neighborhood or stuff like that. You can't put that in there.
I don't know that family was on our list of words.
Say familiar stuff.
No, that list before that.
Yeah,
right?
on our list of
Before that?
prohibited words.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know that. Now you could say no blacks in this neighborhood.
No, those
There we got a problem.
No drugs.
No drugs, that I can say. I can say
That's
no
illegal there, too.
druggies. But I don't know if you got drugs.
You can't tell.
Yeah, how can I tell? Somebody in here's already admitted it.
That was years ago, Steve. Years ago.
So I'm trying to push all these families with children over to this one building.
Yeah.
That's steering.
Student.
Now, I got a lady over here that she told me, I'd appreciate it if you're not putting any kids around me. Can I do that?
No.
No, good, because that's steering in the opposite direction. Fair housing, cover clock got that. These are some, the fair housing site. Got more stuff on there. This is new on the test, called Blue Sky Laws. That addresses syndications and where you're raising money from investors. Some investors, not investors, the developers are not ethical. And they'll sell you just blue sky. You're not getting anything except blue sky. Especially out of state. You see an ad here in the Birmingham newspaper, you can buy property in Florida for $100 an acre. You say, give me some of that. Give me a couple acres. right, and then you get your deed for it, and you go down there, and it's in the middle of the Everglades. It's worthless,
It's where?
in the middle of the Everglades, so it's worthless. So they came up with these blue sky laws to where you've got to, it says the law was originally when buyer only got blue sky, when they thought they were buying an investment, like real estate. What you've got to do, let's see, is it, the link will tell you all about it, but it's basically you've got to give them more information on the property.
So it's a disclosure.
Yes, a
What
disclosure.
you have to disclose to the property that you're
Correct.
selling to people.
It's a disclosure law.
Requirements.
Facebook advertising, more on that, and discrimination. We've already talked about the words. And which of the following laws requires all advertising that references mortgage financing to contain certain disclosures? This one's out of place.
Truth in lending.
Truth in lending. We talked about this in finance last week, 2 weeks ago. We talked about the Truth in Lending Act.
Does not affect the safety of the home. So there's no need to disclose.
No need to disclose.
B.
Yeah.
The antitrust law.
Antitrust.
Price fixing,
Price fixing
collusion with other brokers.
and allocations of markets where we divide up the city.
What kind?
Boycotting. Good.
That's the list. If you put your phone number on there, you're supposed to call.
What's the
What's the
fine?
fine?
$11,000. You're not gonna get many $11,000 commission checks. So you don't wanna give one of them to these people.
If you established rapport with them, it's been
Yes.
after 18 months.
Yes.
Huh?
Rapport 18 months.
Okay.
That's the
Fair
equal
housing.
housing.
Fair housing poster, 1978.
No,
No,
No.
patent,
Like everybody is responsible.
Everybody's responsible. Strict liability,
Oh, that's
there's
for the
no
gas,
defense.
right.
Yeah.
or
That
the
was
gas.
gas station,
the gas station.
gas tank.
It's added at the time of the.
Added at the time of contract, and what is it about?
The loans.
If the house doesn't meet the appraised value.
You can back out or
Back out.
renegotiate.
Section out for no long.
Right. Panic selling is what you're gonna see associated with this blockbusting.
Would you like to live by the Indians?
Yeah, that's where you are projecting what you think they want. You think because they've got kids, they're gonna be happier over here in the building with kids. That's just your thought, it's not, maybe, they don't wanna be around here, they got enough kids around them now,
Right.
they wanna be over here.
Oh, Johnny and Sue kids over my house all the time.
62 or older, 80% over 55.
Good, good.
No.
Nope.
No.
No.
Certified contract.
Certified lead-based paint contractor.
Environmental, hazardous.
Hazardous,
Hazardous to.
Okay, safety.
Pretty much any of them. And you know there's radon in
Oh,
here.
environmental.
You know there's lead-based paint. You know there's asbestos. The thing is, if known.
oh,
Encapsulate.
Encapsulate. Know that word. Encapsulate.
Anything that can hurt.
affect the value of the property.
Affect their decisions. Yeah, their decision.
Yeah.
And capitals.
What you say?
Yeah, I think we just had this one, didn't we?
Mhm.
And they said boycott and stuff. B, discriminate. Fair housing.
Marital status, we didn't mention that at all. We talked extensively about the others.
The fresh corn.
Yep.
No.
No. We've had that slide already too. Have we talked about the RESPA? I think that's, I got a couple of these out of order, so let's talk about it before we test on it.
Yes.
Is age protected?
Fresh corn, no.
No.
I don't hear age in there, I don't hear an A at all.
Mm-mm.
No.
What
Fresh
are the
corn.
protected classes? Familial,
Race.
R,
Race, equal opportunity,
insurance,
sex,
equal opportunity,
handicap,
S,
Six.
H,
Handicap.
C,
color,
O is opportunity equal, R, religion, N. Good, y'all gotta get those straight in there. You can bet there'll be at least one question. Yeah, at least one.
At least.
Yes. Yes.
Well, no, was legally used. Oh,
Yes.
It was.
1976, yeah. When was it not? 78. So that's how they'll mess with you. You got your year, you kind of, was it really, was it 76?
There's a list you go by.
There's a list, you go to donotcall.gov or something and check.
B,
I like B,
where there's water.
where there's water. The first thing you gotta do is stop the water. Stop the water.
Moisture.
And
Heat.
something to eat.
Yeah, organic.
Organic, gotta have something organic to eat and moisture.
After 18 months, we're
Relationship, bill collectors, political calls, and
donation for blood,
fundraising calls.
death, lung cancer.
Death, yeah, 21,000 people a year. That's phenomenal. You don't hear more about that.
D,
Display the team name, but also must have the company, broker, and one of the team members. Everywhere. What's the one I told you to be careful of?
vendor,
Yeah, caveat ventor. They'll throw that one in on you now. Don't do the deal. Yeah, you're gonna get in trouble.
it's one that you.
You see that one, that one's obvious. That's another one where they'll throw you. Patent and latent. Latent is the one that's hidden.
nope.
Is a self-disclosure required?
No, it's not required.
Not required.
Not in the state of Alabama.
Not in Alabama. States around us, yes. We have one, but it's not required.
You must answer.
You must answer
If you know it.
truthfully and completely.
Give them the sign.
Yes, get them to sign the form, and I told you so.
During the time allotted? 7 days?
This one, the termite inspection has to be done within 10 days of closing. We didn't talk about that, that should have been brought up in the inspection. But you don't do that until right up within 10 days of the closing.
Violent suppression.
No, not disclosing something that you know that's true.
Material, yeah, not disclosing the material fact.
Can stand.
It's the regulations on the
Advertisement.
On your advertising of the internet, emails, faxes, the Controlling the Assault of Non-Solicited Pornography and Marketing Act. Rules for, we just did the rules.
Home warranty, home insurance. Insurance covers the defects. warranty.
Future, yeah, that's a good way to see that. Well, home warranty is gonna cover what part?
The insides for
Appliances.
Systems, heater, air conditioner. Home
Cooling.
insurance is gonna cover perils such as lightning, fire, those kind of things.
a cloud on the table. Or
Something defect on the title is what title insurance is gonna cover. Something happened in the past with these others, something happened in the future.
Table.
well, they don't have to get it.
They don't have to, but that would be
Stupid.
Unwise.
very unwise, yes. Because you just don't know what you don't know.
The right of buying.
Antitrust.
Antitrust is what Sherman Act deal with. Requirements for 3 requirements.
Name, company, and
Yeah,
phone
name.
number. Who's advertising person?
Something.
Truthful, your name, broker's name.
That's
Environmental,
That's-
this is the stuff of the, like gas tanks in the ground.
Oh, yeah.
that's the
Circle.
commercial thing.
Yeah,
We have to disclose.
you should change this to, what is the outcome of misrepresentation? I don't think there's actually a fine, it's more of a, give me your license.
Mm.
We haven't talked about the, yeah, we did, we talked about fair credit and financing, didn't we? Yeah, I talked about my grandpa. Got a
Yeah, he was
mortgage,
like 97.
94 years old, got a 30-year mortgage.
They couldn't say.
So the fair credit protected classes, pretty much the fresh corn, except fair credit adds marital status, source of income, and age. We cover that in finance. Can you advertise great Catholic schools within walking distance?
No.
No. How about that one?
Yeah.
No.
What if they're married?
No.
Can you
18
advertise?
plus.
18 only?
Can you advertise?
Aren't you saying no kids?
Right.
For adults 18 and over.
That's
Yeah.
saying adults.
Yeah, but
only.
you're
Okay.
excluding
That says,
familial
Well, I guess-
status here.
I guess if you,
Families with children, protected class.
I'm thinking,
But you saying no children, this
yeah, I'm not
adults
thinking
only, children.
no children, I'm just thinking that you gotta be 18 and over to rent here, or you gotta be, you know what I'm saying?
Well, this is the way they're gonna.
That's the law anyway.
On the test.
But you
They
saying
don't-
you advertise that you gotta be 18 and older.
so that's no.
Well, yeah, this is excluding who?
Children.
Children. Can you do that?
No.
No. So can you advertise 18 plus only? No. Unless they're all over, and then you specifically say adult community. Yeah, of course you do. You wanna get them, first thing you wanna do, get them with a mortgage company. See if they're even qualified before you start driving them around. And that's another thing, I don't suggest driving people around. Have them meet you at the house. That's gonna be a good place to call it a night.
What is the goat mountain?
What's the mountain goat doing up here in that plant thing?
You probably on the mountain and you gonna run into it.
Guys, thank you much. Let's see, Thursday night, we're doing property management.